Hi, I'm Tim from Canadian Craft Tours, and today we've got a quick lesson on how to taste wine. Now, I don't have to teach anyone how to drink wine. We're all pretty good at that. But a few short steps, and you can get a lot more out of your glass. All you need are the 4 S's. Follow along. Step 1 is to spy. You taste with your eyes first. So let's spy on this glass of wine. And a lot of people you'll see look through the glass to determine what's in it. And this is a terrible idea, because if I look through this glass, it appears to have a video producer standing in it. So what you really want to do is not look through the glass at something behind it, but you want to tilt the glass and hold it over a surface. A white sheet of paper is great, but if you don't have one, your hand works just fine. Look through it. And the point of turning it on its side like this is to get a thin layer of wine so we can see through the edge. When we look through the edge, we'll get a much more accurate idea of the color, clarity, and hue. So quickly, color, is it red or is it white? Dark red, light red, dark white, light white, yellower. Most wines that you're going to be exposed to are going to be completely clear. Very few wines are bottled cloudy these days. The exceptions are vintage wines that are decades old and some ports and things like that. The hue is important. A wine that's very young, especially a red, will have a bright purplish hue. That's because the pigments in wine are actually blue and red together. Mixed up, they're purple. The blue pigments are less stable though, and over time they fade, and the wine becomes a true red, and it can even go to a bricky red color. In white wines, very young wines that haven't been exposed to any oak are pale yellow. A heavier wine with more extract from the grapes, like a big Chardonnay, especially one that's been through an oak barrel, will have a deeper, more yellow hue. Now, as a general rule of thumb, darker wines taste heavier than lighter wines. It's not always true. There are certain wines out there that are brilliantly light and clear and limpid and pale, like this Pinot Noir, that pack a huge punch. And there are some dark, juicy reds, which are light enough to drink just gulping them out of a glass. So the first step, let's look at it. The second step is to give it a swirl. That's the big S, swirling it. Now, if you have trouble freehand swirling, and I am an expert, I'm not threatening the camera equipment or the producer, what you can do is you can put your glass down on a flat surface. A table works best. And then move it back and forth. You don't do a big loop. Just move it back and forth in short strokes, and you'll see it climb the sides of the glass. Now, a quick word on the glass. People always ask me, which tasting glass should I buy? The most important thing is to buy a really big one. Now, not just from greed point of view, but also if you're going to swirl, you need some room in there. You want to pour at least 2 or 3 ounces of wine in the glass, and you want to get it moving. One thing you'll see some people do is they'll swirl and then they'll observe the legs running down the inside. These are teardrops or raindrops running down the inside of the glass. And people will tell you, oh, that indicates the wine has a lot of glycerin, or it has a lot of alcohol, or it has a lot of flavor. It indicates none of these. In fact, it's utterly unimportant. What you're seeing when you see those swirls come down the side of the glass is something called the Marangoni effect. And when you mix alcohol and water in a solution, they try to separate themselves out. It does that whether it's vodka or wine, whether it's heavy or light. So it's interesting to observe, but it doesn't tell us anything. So we swirl the glass, and why we're swirling it is so that we can liberate some of the aromas that are in that wine. And if we just left it flat, it's not going to give very much up. But if we've got it swirling, it's going to be bashing off those aroma molecules and filling the glass up. So once we've swirled, the next step is to sniff. A word on sniffing. A little teeny bunny sniff, you're getting nothing. The nasal bulb is the thing that takes the information from the aroma molecule and gives it to your brain. The speed at which that molecule impacts the nasal bulb conveys the information to your brain. Faster, more information. Slower, nothing. So we need to sniff hard. And we need to sniff hard enough that we get a good gust of air up our nose. Think about it. You ever see a dog on a scent? They're working it. They need that speed to get that information, and we need to be like them. So, first step. Now, after about 3 sniffs, you're going to get fatigued. But that's okay, because you can just get a little fresh air, and you're ready to go again. So swirl and sniff. Now let's think about what we smell. I've got a Pinot Noir here, so I'm getting some bright cherries, a little bit of raspberry aroma. This has been oaked, so I'm also getting some oaky aromas, a little bit of toast, a little bit of wood, and overall, it's really pleasant. So we're through swirl and sniff. Now we want to sip. Sipping is a little different than just grabbing a mouthful of wine. What you want to do is go through the process where you take a little sip and then get some air in it. Just like swirling the wine in the glass, getting some air in your sip is going to give you much more information about what's going on there. So the sip is only about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of wine. Then you want to pucker up, hold the wine between your teeth and your tongue, and pucker up and whistle backwards. Don't whistle forwards, that's very wrong. Whistle backwards, like you're puckering up to smooch. I'll show you. And that's perfectly good etiquette. It's fine. The next thing we want to do after we swirl and sip is think about what's going on. Think about all the flavors that are bursting across our palate. I've got bright cherry. I've actually got some darker red cherry in here. And there are a multiplicity of flavors related to the age of this wine. It's really mature. So I'm getting a little bit of forest floor. I'm getting a little bit of almost like mushroomy notes. That is typical of Pinot Noir that's been through a long aging process. Now, we also want to do another S, and that is stop. As soon as we've swallowed that sip, stop. Think about what's happening. As the wine warms up on our palate, mixes with our saliva, goes through the taste buds and conveys that information to our brain, it is going to evolve and change. We're going to get a host of different flavors. As the alcohol warms up, it's going to drive different things. Stop. Think about what you're tasting. Take a moment. Now there is a final S, and that is spit. If you are like a professional taster, tasting 20, 40, 60 wines a day, even a single teaspoon and you will be gooned by noon. Trust me, I've been there. So you want to spit. However, if we're just tasting wine at home with our friends, you can swallow and it's just fine. And I recommend doing this every time you open a bottle of wine. Whether you're in a restaurant, just having dinner with friends, or cooking for yourself at home. Follow all the S's. Get the most out of every glass. You'll learn more every time you do it and become a better taster. I'm Tim from Canadian Craft Tours. Cheers to tasting.